All right, looking over, WWE as a whole, after the whole Raw 25 deal, we saw a lot of faces come back for the special episode. Every year with the Royal Rumble, they seem to bring people in, to the match, whether if it is, for a short comeback to the company, like in 2002 when they brought back Goldust, as well as Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. I think that was a little bit about, trying to make sure that they did not sign with TNA, and just thought that maybe they could find somewhere to use them. Both guys came into the company. They didn't have the longest runs before being let go, but they got to have a little bit of a run in that Rumble, and we've seen that over the time. When they bring guys in for that one-off and then they come out and they get that big pop, I think Vince gets that sort of sense of nostalgia and says, hey, the people want to see these guys. Let's use them until people don't want to see them anymore. We don't have to have them win the Rumble, but it is going to be fun to see them wrestle on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown and keep them around for just a little bit, because I think Vince really does love the guys from the past. This year is going to be a little bit hard to predict who's going to be surprise entrants into the Royal Rumble, because as you can tell, you guys look at the sheets every day just like I do, there really are no strong rumors about people that are going to be involved in the Rumble that aren't in WWE's right now. Both brands, Raw and SmackDown, have full list of guys, and they don't have a lot of injuries. Plus they're bringing a third brand along, 205 Live, where I think a lot of those guys will be getting shots to go into there. On top of that, they have NXT wrestlers as well as WWE UK guys that are under contract, which I think really could be used on the show to add a lot of fun to what's going to be going down. When I look around what's going down in the world of wrestling, I have not heard that Bobby Lashley had been released from TNA. He was on the show just the other day, but of course everybody's seen EC3 goodbye to Impact Wrestling after losing his last match with the Feast or Fire deal. So, he is free for the picking. Some people have said they've seen him at the Performance Center. So, he is somebody that could be coming in to WWE sooner than later. I don't like to knock EC3. He's a really nice guy as well as a really good wrestler. I just don't see where he really fits into Raw or SmackDown at this time. And I would not be surprised if when he did come in, if he was an NXT branded wrestler. There's no knock on somebody coming into the company and only being involved with in NXT. It's always a door where they could go out there and outperform what is going on and get moved up to the roster sooner than later. I think Kevin Owens was a guy that is very well talked about, is that when he was signed to WWE, he was signed to WWE to only be involved with NXT. They told him flat out to his face, don't have your hopes up on being involved with Raw or SmackDown. Your place is to basically be an NXT guy. And after only performing there for like 3 or 4 months, was moved up to the main roster. There is no backup to this story, but I think Samoa Joe is another guy which could be put in that place where basically he, got, moved up to the main roster after overperforming in NXT and basically, finally getting a spot on the main roster. No, that wasn't last year, the year before. I think he's been on the main roster now for 2 years coming up this year. Rey Mysterio is the guy that's always going to be named out there. When WWE always does polls basically saying, who are wrestlers not involved in WWE that you want to see come back. Rey's always at the top of the charts there, always been a real fan-friendly wrestler, very over with a lot of fans that, at the time he left, were younger and they're still holding on to being wrestling fans. People want to see Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio coming back home to WWE is something that they really want to see. The Rumble would be a great place to kickstart that for that. As of right now, according to Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer podcast, basically, he said the only thing keeping between a Rey Mysterio comeback in WWE is money. And basically, Mysterio, I think the number was going to ask for like, what is it, I think he said $3 million a year. And that's just what, WWE's not going to pay, but I guess that is what Ray is making on the indies as of right now. So I think everybody's seen the numbers about what, the guys in WWE make. That was a big story that was out there a few weeks ago. And Ray getting a deal for $3 million a year is going to put him at not the very top, because I think it was like Brock made 10, Cena made so much, and then Undertaker made 1, and the numbers just go on from there. I can't remember off the top of my head, and somebody's going to say, "Hey, that guy was wrong," and I was. But I can't really think of anybody else because of so much things. Impact has some guys under contract right now where they're using them on their shows. But there's not a lot of people out there that are big names that are not, involved in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like Chris Jericho would always be a rumored guy to be going into the Royal Rumble, but this year, he had the match with Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 12. They got sort of a present to use him backstage at Raw 25. But I don't think they would really want him wrestling on the Royal Rumble when he's supposed to be, helping out New Japan at the same time. So I don't know. That's a weird one that's sort of always up in the air. But I think as of right now, I don't think he might not have a contract, but I think that he is associated with New Japan, and I don't think that Vince is going to be wanting to use him in the Royal Rumble, no matter, how big of a deal to wrestling marks like me and you is to think that a guy from New Japan is wrestling in WWE in a match. So I can't really think of anybody else off the top of my head. There's no real rumors, bouncing around. There's always going to be that guy like Rob Van Dam that they might know is going to get a pop. I think it was the Royal Rumble 2006 off the top of my head, where he wasn't in WWE and hadn't been in WWE in a while, and they used him as a one-off, where basically he just ran out there for the match, wrestled in it for a while, got eliminated, and then we didn't see him again until he popped up in TNA years later. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of surprises this year, guys. It's just going to have to be one of those things. But no big surprises for the Rumble this year.